Hello, welcome back. Right, as you can see, the topic of today's game is Armalyte, comparing the Commodore 64 version, which I do have a tape of, but which is never loaded, against the playable demo of the Spectrum version that was never released, but the demo appeared on a Your Sinclair magazine cover tape. I have done a separate video of that before, and I've always wanted to actually do this video showing the Spectrum version, or the Spectrum demo, against the Commodore 64 version. Now, released by Thalamus in 1988, it was one of a few games that when I first got a Commodore 64, lots and lots of people told me I needed to try this. It's a scrolling shoot 'em up set in space, one of very, very many, but apparently it stands out from the crowd for a number of reasons. I have had a quick play finally of it, because thanks to my friend Chris Willock, I've finally been able to find a ROM of it that actually works on the SD to IEC. I tried about 6 or 7 and I couldn't get any of them to load, so I was quite disappointed. But here we are, Armalyte for the Commodore 64 first, just to see what it's like, and then we're going to have a look at the Spectrum demo. Now, shoot 'em up games, I had a few, but I was never any good at them. You know, we had Flying Shark, R-Type, various others, and over the years I've collected the occasional one, standout ones being, I would say anyone who had a GameCube, if you ever remembered a game by Treasure called Ikaruga. I had that, and that game was absolutely mental. I think I only ever got off the first level once. It was absolutely fantastic, but there was just far too much going on for my eyes, and we all know how bad I am with joysticks and stuff. I'm not going to get off the first level when I show you Armalyte on the Commodore 64. If I do, it's a bloody miracle. But all the same, let's just get into it. Right, as ever, just comment what your thoughts are on the similarities and differences, and also give your memories and reminiscences of R-Type. See you in a sec. Okay, so as promised, here we go, Armalyte for the Commodore 64 from Thalamus in 1988. Some really, really good effects going on there. Now, it is a sort of shoot 'em up. Some guff old story about it, but basically it's just go from left to right and shoot a load of aliens. There are various energy pods, as you can see there, that you give you power-ups. You also have the pod, sort of like the secondary, gives you secondary firepower. But let's get into it and see what it's like. Right, okay, so there's me, the blue thing. The green thing is my sort of secondary power pod. Now these things here, if I shoot them, eventually they give me sort of power-ups that I can collect and use eventually towards getting more sort of weaponry. As you can see now, I've already got the sort of rear cannon there. If I try and fire up that, and you need to collect a couple to sort of eventually get the better sort of level of firepower. But my initial impressions of Armalyte for the Commodore 64 are incredibly good. In fact, I'd say it's great. It's frantic. It's very well designed. It's hard. I don't think it's hard to the point of being unfair, though. It's certainly very, very challenging, which for me is, you know, oh dear, I'm dead already. Right, so if I hold the fire button down, you can see I get sort of like a burst of an energy bar, but I've got only a limited amount of... Right. Oh dear, bloody hell. It's hard to sort of concentrate on what I'm supposed to be doing and talk at the same... and talk at the same time. But yeah, this is really frantic. It might not look like it's moving too quickly, but bearing in mind my hand-eye coordination and joysticks aren't my favourite thing in the world, it's very challenging. Now, a lot of it, of course, is going to be sort of like learning... Oh dear, look, game over already. It's going to be learning attack patterns. And eventually, with practice, you know, we'll get better and better. Now, that effect there, that sort of like graphic demo, I think that's absolutely brilliant. Let's try again. I'm resisting the urge to put my joystick on auto-fire, but I might have to just do that at one point, just to sort of see if I can try and get a little bit further. Oh, now ideally, by now I would have wanted the rear cannon, but I haven't got it, so I'm going to have to make do with what I've got, I'm afraid. So yeah, please shout up your thoughts on how you enjoyed Armalyte, whether you did or didn't. I think it's really quite an excellent example of a really, really well designed game. Not too tricky, but tricky enough that you don't just breeze through it straight away. Oh dear. Oh, concentrate, Baz. Ah! Ooh. Ah! Right, yeah, it's... Oh dear. Come on. Whoa. Now, it's full of these tight little sort of spaces, and I don't know if they get progressively more difficult on later levels, but I would presume they do. Whoa! Ah! And the thing with it is, if you fuck something up, it's usually your fault. It's not bad collision detection or anything. It's you haven't... Oh! You haven't planned your route properly. Now, these little sort of corridor levels are... Well, not corridor, sort of like... I don't even know what I was going to say there. Really, really frantic. Oh, I thought I shot that. Ah! But it's very addictive, Armalyte. Let's go again. We go again. Come on, Baz. Come on. Right. Right. So I've got the rear cannon now. Let's try and get something with that. Now I can. Oh dear, dead already. Ah. Now you can, like I said, you can detach by pressing space the drone thingy. I probably wouldn't advise against it, only because I don't really know what I'm doing in this game. For me, I'm not doing too badly. And you know, the Commodore 64 is renowned as having shoot 'em ups as one of its particular strengths, and from what's on display here, I can sort of see why. You know, it's really high quality game. I don't know if it ever came out on any other systems, if any of the sort of 16 bits, the Atari ST or Commodore Amiga got... Oh! Shit! Got versions of it. You tell me. Ah. Right, I'm going to try it now. I'm going to cheat now. I'm going to put the auto fire on. Just to see if that will get me any further. Probably not. But hey ho, that's what's... Why have an auto fire if you ain't going to try it at least once? Whoa! Whoa, whoa, I didn't want to take that line. Oh, ah! It's full of these sort of tight tunnel areas. Ah, right, now I've got the uppy-downy gun. Ah! Not one of those single... Not one single one of those bullets got one of them. Right. So yeah, very, very impressed with this. Although my arm is aching like a bastard right now. Oh. You see, just by holding down the fire button. Oh! Ah, it's going to be game over, isn't it? Oh shit, I've left the fire button on. Ah, that means it started it all over again. Right, okay, come on, one more go. Oh. Oh, we're not stuck. starting too well, Baz. I'll tell you what, I'll turn it off. Right. Oh! Whoa, 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 whoa. Ah, I don't like this. Ah! Oh, shit. Now, I haven't actually got time to press the space button yet. The C64 itself is actually a little way over to my left, and this is a bit frantic. Now, the good thing is that once you've sort of lost a life or whatever, it seems to allow you to keep your power-ups, which, you know, other shoot-'em-ups don't usually do. Which is welcome, especially for me, because there's nothing more sort of annoying than losing everything you've earned and having to start again with a bleeding pea shooter or something. You know, I'm sure we all know what I'm talking about there. Right, I'm in sort of uncharted territory now. Oh! Hello, I can't get out of there now, can I? Oh, yes, I can. Oh, well, I thought I was going to die there. Actually, it does seem like my power's gone down a little bit. Whoa. Oh, I don't like... Jesus Christ, it loves all its little gaps, doesn't it? Whoa. Now, where... Oh, get out of it. This doesn't look good. This looks bossy. That looks like a big boss. Ah, right. Wow, well, I found a boss. That was really, really, really good. Okay, let's have a look at the Spectrum version. Okay, right, here we go. This is the playable demo of the ZX Spectrum planned release version of Armalyte, which never saw the light of day. And this was included on Your Sinclair cover tape number 65. Like I said, I have done a video of this game before. I'm playing this now through Spectaculator. So, let's see what this is like. Now, again, Commodore 64 owners, you're going to be the best people to sort of judge this. But also, Spectrum fans, would this have been something you were looking forward to, bearing in mind how good the Commodore 64 version is? Now, it's a little slow, but then the Commodore 64 version wasn't a sort of breakneck speed shoot 'em up, was it? But everything's moving sort of nicely. There's no sort of slowdown as such. There's a lot going on screen, and from what I've played of this demo, it seems to sort of mimic the first level of the Commodore version really quite well. It seems to have everything in there. I've not worked out how to select the super weapons, so you know, your extended sort of blast sort of type things, but maybe that's not actually in this. After all, this isn't sort of finished, and it's a real shame really that this game didn't come out. Now, I don't know whether or not Thalamus had financial troubles or anything like that, but it would have been a sort of surefire seller, I would have thought, because it is very professionally done, and you know, it would have been up there with the best sort of Spectrum shooters like your Zynaxes and stuff like that, because it's a really good sort of facsimile of the Commodore version. Right, let's go. And you don't seem to be able to detach the scout sort of thing either, but again, you know, so like I said, it's really sort of quite sad and disappointing that it never sort of came to pass, if you like. And that sort of leads me to think, you know, how far, this is only sort of the first level, I think, how far advanced was the Spectrum version of Armalyte? And that then leads to the question of, is there, you know, sitting in someone's drawer somewhere, a more complete version of the game, or is this as far as it ever got? Don't know. But it's intriguing to sort of know that, you know, there may sort of out there somewhere be a far more complete version of a game that could be sort of preserved and released. I would have thought it would have shown up by now. So, you know, like I say, sort of sad, because this is a really good sort of example of what the game could have been. And it could have been something really good. I mean, the Spectrum version of R-Type, for example, was amazing. And this... Oh... Yeah, it does get sort of quite frantic. And very playable. I'm not the best at the genre, as I said. And the good thing is I'm playing this with keys, so I'm faring slightly better than I did on the Commodore version, which isn't difficult really. Sounds sort of decent enough, a little bit sort of weak and high pitched, but you know, it does the job. Oh, I've got to fly through that gap, haven't I? I can't blow them up. Whoops, a daisy. Ah! Whoa! I forgot where I was there. Can I blow them up? Yes, I can blow them up. So, ah! That was a bit wanky. I don't know what is this, the end of the level? Oh dear. I'll try that once more, I think. Let me just go and turn the lights off. Very quickly. Just so that it might show up better on the camera. I'm not going to bother putting my name in there. Right, into it again we go. Now, what was your absolute favourite shoot 'em up on the Spectrum? A lot of people sort of choose Cybernoid and Cybernoid 2, but to be honest, you know, whilst I can appreciate how sort of excellent those games are, they're bastard hard, and I find them really quite difficult to play. And I've never sort of managed to advance very far in either of them. So that kind of sort of difficulty level has always kind of sort of put me off, because I'm not the best at games in the world, and you know, if I spend like a long time struggling at a section, I don't really sort of have the patience to sort of stick with it, which really sort of does games a disservice, really, because you know, I appreciate games aren't supposed to be easy, and should have a challenge, but I was just never, my hand-eye coordination was never brilliant. Now, I mentioned oh, excuse me, Ikaruga on the GameCube. That game was just insane. It was fantastic, brilliant score and everything, but at times, you know, everything just seemed to be going on the screen, and you know, I just couldn't keep up with it. Similarly on the, oh, there's my phone again. Similarly on the SNES, I had Super Celeste, and whilst I could see how sort of great a game it was, it just got to points in the game where I just couldn't keep up with it, and it's a shame. So I never sort of completed many sort of shoot 'em ups. I think the one time I did complete Synapse, I did it by putting a poke in, which you know, it's not the way to do it, but hey ho. I'm just not a natural. I like playing games, but I'm just not good at hardly any of them. So yeah, the Spectrum version of Armalyte is quite sort of sad, because it, you know, it clearly would have been something quite decent. And like I say, you know, we can cling to the hope that in a drawer somewhere there might be a sort of much more finished version somewhere, but maybe that's just wishful thinking. I don't think it's ever going to show up. Shame. Whoa! I did. Whoa, whoa, there's a lot going on here. And when there is a lot going on, there's no sort of noticeable slowdown. Now, like I said, it's not the fastest game in the world anyway, but whoa, it's a hot-footed through there. Yeah, it's not the fastest game in the world anyway, but when there is a lot going on, which there is often, it doesn't sort of drag the game sort of grinding to a halt, if you know what I mean, as is often the case. Whoops, a daisy. Come here, you space buggers. Space bastards, if you will, or such. Which I'm not. No one's Vil. Vil's Vil. Vil's great. That's not dying. Right, yes it is. Right. So this would really have sort of whetted your appetite, I think, for Armalyte, this demo. Ah, there we go. Right, that was the unreleased ZX Spectrum version of Armalyte playable demo from a cover tape. Let's move on to the outro. Okay, there we go. That was Commodore 64 Armalyte versus what would have been the first level, I presume, of the Spectrum version. But of course, as I said, it was never released, which is a shame because it really was looking like it was going to be something quite special. So, as ever, please just shout up your thoughts and memories of the game, what you thought the similarities and differences between the two versions. Now, thanks ever so much again, Chris Willock, for sorting me out with a version of the Commodore 64 game that I could actually use. There's about 9 different versions of Armalyte on the SD card I have in my SD to IEC device, and it was only the one that Chris sent me that worked, and it worked first time, so thanks for that, mate. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's tough. My bloody hand and half hurt though after playing it. That's one of my sort of big drawbacks with C64 games. They're mostly joystick controlled. There are quite a few that are keyboard controlled as well, which is always welcome, but that's just me. You have to sort of just get on with it, don't you? But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It looked great. It was fast, frantic, really well designed, sounded great. It wouldn't have been a waste of a tenner or however much it cost when it came out. Now, like I said, sadly the tape I have of it that came with the Commodore 64 when I bought it, it sadly doesn't load because otherwise I'd have been playing it far sooner than today, if you know what I mean. But anyway, there we go. That was just to put those versions side by side and have a look at them, see whether or not the Spectrum got its arse kicked. And I don't think it did. I think Armalyte for the Spectrum would have been something really good. But yeah, the Commodore 64 version is great. I did enjoy that, even though it's really difficult. Okay, that's it. If you like the video, please let me know. If you wish to subscribe, please do so. What are you doing, dog? But if you do subscribe, please make sure you take the time to join in with the conversation, because that's what it's all about. Thanks ever so much for watching. Take care and goodbye.